Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. I apologize. This is the afternoon. It's not the morning. This is Phil Brilliant, Simply Brilliant. And it is January 29th. 2 more days left of January. Where did this month go? Before we know it, Christmas will be here. And no, no, no. I am hearing now that the snowstorm for the weekend has been canceled. So everybody get out your bathing suits and go have fun. I apologize. It has been somewhat of a chaotic day. Uh, and I got to tell you, so I started my day. I had to teach this morning. I have an educational program for licensed professionals to where we give them, continuing ed credits, let it be LSRPs, those are licensed site remediation professionals, engineers, surveyors, attorneys, environmental health officers. And this morning we had what we call our hot topic, and we talked about the New Jersey legislative and environmental forecast for 2026 with a new governor, new assembly and Senate, and new commissioners throughout all of the different branches of government in our cabinet here in New Jersey. And we got Zoom bombed. Been doing this for 6 years now. Have never had it happen before. And we had 109 people in the class, and bam, all of a sudden, inappropriate pornography started popping up on the screen, and I'm the moderator, and I'm trying to catch them. And people were great though. Nobody really freaked out. I was able to find the person that had been copied, and threw them out of the room and then locked the room, which then caused me problems because everybody's like, I can't get into the room. I can't get into the room. I'm 15 minutes late. I can't get. So anyway, it became a hassle. And then I had to learn how to cut and edit videos because we put those videos up on our website. So that was pretty much like my entire morning, which I didn't plan on doing. But I wanted to touch base just real quick about a couple things. Last night was a council meeting. Um, and I will tell you, it was hot, hot, hot in that room. For some reason, the heat was turned up. They actually had to open the windows, and it was it made for somewhat of an uncomfortable environment. But we all seemed to get our way through it. And council, it was not 4.5 hours long as the first meeting was of 2026. I apologize. Um, I think Council President Ciccozzi did the best he could do to try to provide decorum to the meeting. But when you're dealing with a junkyard like Dan Rodrick, he's just beating people and beating people. And even when you try to stick to Robert's rules, he still comes up with curveballs, and it's just a difficult environment, I think, for anybody. When you had Coleman as the council president and you had Justin Lamb as the council president, you know, Roderick just went off and they just let it happen. There was no real stopping him. Council president, when Justin Lamb was there, he kind of, I think Roderick didn't go off as much. I think they probably had some kind of a deal or plan, and he just went off when he had the opportunities to. Um, but it's tough. But they did go to an executive session to start off the meeting, and we come to find out later because I asked a question in public comment period. I'm like, I see Mr. Chabot sitting here as the acting business administrator. We saw an email that went out from Mr. Salonis, the business administrator, and I got to see if I have it here on my phone. I have it somewhere. I want to read this again because I think I need to read this and think about what it says because I'm a little confused. So it's an email that went to staff in town hall from Mr. Salonis, and it says, I will need to take a temporary leave from my current role as business administrator effective immediately to spend additional time attending to personal matters. Mayor Roderick is appointing Drew Chabot to role of acting business administrator during my leave. I look forward to reassuming the role of business administrator in the future and to serving the residents of Toms River in whatever role the mayor assigns for me during my temporary leave. So I asked a couple questions. My one question was, is he on leave of absence or not? And what I kind of got back from the mayor was a lot of double talk, and it sounds like he's cutting back his hours, but he's still coming to work every day. Don't know if it's every day. Um, I asked the question, well, are we cutting his pay if he's cutting his hours? And I got some mumbling, didn't really get a firm answer. And then I said, well, is Drew Chabot getting additional money for being the acting business administrator? And I got a resounding yes. So we have two people employed by the township. One is a, make sure I say the word right, temporary leave business administrator, and one's an acting business administrator. But it appears they're both in town hall working, and we're paying for them out of our tax dollars. I didn't really get satisfactory answers. I got, you should watch it. I'll try to cut and paste and put it up, but really doesn't make sense to me. I don't know why, we need, other than the fact, I do know that, Drew Chabot's title was chief of staff, which does not exist in the code of Tom's River, doesn't exist in the salary structure. And so maybe this is a way to get him more money. It's kind of very vague and very strange. But that was something that came up. And then, there was a lot of discussing in the public comment period about the unhoused here in Tom's River. And I'll go back a minute because I did attend at 4 o'clock yesterday the um, Ocean County Library Commission meeting at the Toms River branch of the Ocean County Library, where they were strictly discussing the JBJ Soul Kitchen and the lease, which was due to expire tomorrow. They went into closed session, they came back out, and they agreed to extend it to April 30th. They have a small committee that's come together to evaluate what they want to do with that space. I think that space is perfect. I think that space has always been some kind of cafe, and a cafe that provides the community with food, comfort, dignity if they can't afford food. I can't think of a better place. And I always go back to, and I'm sure I'm not going to find it as quick as a 12-year-old would find on the internet. But but looking at it, you know, basically the libraries, and yeah, I have a hard time saying library. On their website, their motto is connecting people, building community, transforming lives. If that doesn't say JBJ Soul Kitchen, I don't know what does. So I hope they make the decision for a longer extension. We'll go until April 30th, and we'll see. Hopefully, something will happen well before that. But in addition, on the agenda, now we go back to the council meeting. Um, there were some items that were talked about. There were no ordinances on the agenda. And then, we came to the last, issues here, which were, W, which was a resolution for an RFP for council to represent the township council due to the mayor's authorization of the township council to file legal proceedings against the council. If you go listen to the January 1st meeting, the mayor said, I'm going to sue the town. I'm going to have the attorney sue the town. Dana Tremolin asked a great question. How does the attorney who represents the town represent both parties? If the mayor sues the council or the council sues the mayor, how can the township attorney fairly address legalities between both parties? So this RFP makes a lot of sense to me. Mayor Rodrick, of course, fought it, said you don't understand it, you're doing wrong. The attorney, Mr. Penny, did the same thing, was very condescending. I think a couple times he may have dozed off on the dais. But he was clearly showing he doesn't represent the council, he represents the mayor. Watch the video. He's not looking like he wants to help the council at all. The other one was establishing a special meeting to conduct public hearings regarding municipal health insurance and the joint insurance fund. Interesting. It ended up in a conversation about inviting multiple parties to come together and talk about the health insurance for the employees here in Toms River and the JIF. It was approved. Both of these resolutions were approved. I don't know where that second one's going to go immediately, but it appears to be a situation where maybe they can have a conversation as to what really is happening with the JIF, what's really happening with the health insurance, because we learned a lot last meeting on January 14th from Connor, Strong, and Buckaloo. They're the former health insurance providers. They're the current JIF providers for auto and liability and all that stuff. So we'll see where that goes down the road. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more to go before that. And then, actually, I don't remember. Oh, yeah, Z was just through resolution and didn't even get questioned. So didn't even think about it. You know, Council comments, elected officials were pretty general, really tied to the storm and the response by Department of Public Works and be careful. Council President Ciccozzi said, you know what, I'm going to wait until after the public comment to make my comments. And I invite you too, Mayor, to do that. And the mayor took him up on it. So they waited until after public comments, and public comments really took a couple different turns, really talked about the unhoused. As I said, there were a couple of people who were very angry at the mayor for basically not providing housing, for closing Riverwood. Not necessarily blaming him for the unfortunate, death of a woman in the Walmart parking lot. And as much as he wants to say he's not responsible, the person died here in Toms River. I don't care where the person might be from. They died in Toms River here. And I think when the people are here in Toms River, you as the mayor have a responsibility to them. And there were other, comments and questions that came in. And, we'll see where all of it goes from there. There, of course, was talk of recall. And I do want to read onto the record because while I was reading it, the mayor was yelling at me. The mayor's wife was yelling from the back row. I believe that, Miss Matarazzo, who works in code enforcement, was yelling from the back row. I stayed on course. If you watch the video, I had a mission. I wanted to get my comments through. I wanted to get my questions answered. And I wanted to make sure I put this on record. So I'm going to read it for you all right now for those who can't hear it or didn't hear it. And this is really from the committee and of the recall of Daniel Rodrick. And I want to make something clear because NewJersey.com asked me yesterday, what's next? We're done. I mean, if we had submitted over 18,464 signatures and the clerk had come back and said, no, you didn't meet it, then we go to court. The statute is clear, 160 days, 25% of the registered voters, the last General Assembly election, which goes back to 2023 because we started before this most recent General Assembly election, we didn't meet the requirements. There's no what's next. It's over. And you'll hear what I have to say here and you'll understand, why we didn't turn in the 16,963 signatures that we did have. I'm going to read it to you. I appreciate you listening. Before coming here tonight, I thought long and hard about walking in with over 3,000 petition pages in hand, publicly presenting them, laying them out for all to see. I spoke with many people about it, but I asked myself a simple question. What would truly be gained by adding more theater to an already chaotic political world? I chose instead to take the high road and stick to the facts, to protect the privacy of residents who signed and explicitly did not want their names disclosed, and to speak plainly and objectively about what actually happened. That choice was not weakness, it was restraint. And restraint is something many in public life would benefit from relearning. Toms River was built on the idea that local voices matter. Long before this was a township, before it was even called Toms River, the people here governed themselves. During the Revolutionary War, this community was not a bystander. In 1782, the Battle of Toms River was fought here, one of the last land battles of the American Revolution. Ordinary residents stood up, not because it was easy, but because they believed their voices and their future were worth defending. The spirit did not end in 1782. Over the past 160 days, the committee to recall Daniel Rodrick as mayor of Toms River, Dana Tormolen, Chris Raymond, and myself, and thousands of residents once again participated in lawful civic process, this time through a petition authorized under New Jersey state law. With circulation beginning on August 19th, 2025, few believed such an effort could gain momentum. Yet by the close of the circulation period, 16,963 unverified signatures across 3,590 petition pages had been collected. That is not conjecture. That is not spin. That is physical count of completed petition pages in our possession. Those signatures represented neighbors, parents, seniors, small business owners, lifelong residents, and newer families alike from every corner and every ward of Toms River. People who believed participation still matters in this town and who felt compelled to speak out. From the very beginning, the committee publicly committed that if the statutory minimum was not met, the petitions would not be submitted for verification to the township clerk, a process that would have made every signature subject to public disclosure under Oprah. We honored that commitment, not only out of fear, not only to support the people, not out of doubt, but out of respect for the residents who signed and made it clear they did not want their names disclosed unless absolutely required. And I want to stop there for a second. I didn't say this last night, but what does that mean? That means that if we had the numbers we needed and we submitted the petition and we go to a recall, they're taking their chances, okay? That at some point in time, vengeance may come from Daniel Rodrick. But not making the number and not having the election wasn't worth submitting that information just so that Daniel Rodrick can have it and no recall election occur. That's an important thing to remember. I'll continue. In recent days, however, the mayor released several statements calling this effort a hoax. He claimed the signatures were nowhere near what was stated. He accused volunteers of dishonesty, alleged illegal signature collections, and even suggested that a private investigator he hired personally were watching every signing event. He said that if nearly 17,000 signatures truly existed, volunteers would have had to visit every other house in Toms River. His social media mouthpiece even claimed, quote, Phil Brilliant, that's me, bankrupt businessman who is under fire for receiving free healthcare benefits at the Toms River MUA for 1 hour of work per month, failed in his personal vengeance attempt against Daniel Rodrick, Toms River mayor. End of quote. He cited unnamed polls, criticized the press, and framed this entire effort as an attempt to discredit his administration. So let me be clear, very clear. I have no personal vengeance or vendetta against Dan Rodrick. This is not personal to me at all. This is about Toms River, Toms River, Toms River. Calling this effort a hoax does not discredit organizers. It discredits the voices of over almost 17,000 residents who exercise core constitutional freedoms: the freedom of speech, the freedom of peaceful assembly, and the freedom of the right to petition the government for redress of grievances. These rights are not optional. They're not conditional. They are guaranteed by the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. The United States Supreme Court has been unequivocal on this point. In United Mine Workers versus Illinois State Bar Association, the court upheld that the right to petition the government is, quote, among the most precious of liberties safeguarded by the Bill of Rights. When lawful participation is mocked or dismissed, it is not just the residents who are diminished. It is the democratic process itself. Claims of illegal signatures or misconduct are unsupported by evidence. Our volunteers followed the law. They followed the statute. Accusations do not protect public trust, they erode it. And yes, upon review, were there instances where a resident of Pine Lake Park or Holiday City, Berkeley believes they lived in Toms River? Yes. Were there instances where an address did not perfectly match the voter registration record? Yes. Did Francis sign as Fran or Anthony as Tony? Yes. This is precisely why these signatures were always described as unverified. That is why we knew we needed a significant buffer above the minimum requirement of 18,464 to make it stick. And those examples represent the minority, not the majority of the signers. Suggesting that residents could not possibly have participated at this scale is not healthy skepticism. It is disregard. Toms River residents have repeatedly shown they will engage when they believe change is necessary. This town has altered its form of government through voter action before. It has debated its future publicly before. The history exists because participation has never been something to fear. Attempts to frame this effort as partisan also misses the mark. People from across the political spectrum participated. This was not about party, it was about accountability, a principle older than any current administration. James Madison warned that the advancement and diffusion of knowledge is the only guardian of true liberty. Thomas Jefferson reminded us that the government closest to the people serves the people best. What occurred here was not disorder. It was the people of this town engaging in the most basic act of self-government. This effort has concluded. No petitions are being submitted, but the message expressed through the participation cannot be erased by rhetoric, spin, or a press release. The next opportunity for every voter to speak will be in 2027 with the mayoral election. I strongly encourage every resident to participate because Toms River's history makes one thing clear. This community is strongest when everyone is heard. We are TR. Thank you. Those are my words from last night. I wanted you all to hear and share. I hope that our hard work and our dedication gains your respect and understanding, and that you clearly understand that what was done and the almost 17,000 signatures from voters and residents here in Toms River. And yes, some of them would probably have been thrown out. I agree. We saw that when we were reviewing them and counting them up. But that again is the minority. But I hope you realize and understand that this was also an educational process for all of Toms River to learn and to determine themselves what they believe to be best for Toms River and best for their life here in Toms River. I personally believe Daniel Rodrick is not that person. Not a vendetta, not out of vengeance, not revenge. Simply because he doesn't govern. He's a no-show mayor with a job in Irvington, New Jersey. And even on the darkest and most difficult days, whether it be a snowstorm or the death of a senior citizen in her car who may have frozen to death, he can joke and he can dismiss. He can't take responsibility. And I expect my leaders to take responsibility. I hope you do too. I'm Phil Brilliant. This has been Simply Brilliant. Apologize for the lateness of the day, but have a good weekend. And please be safe on the ice.